Your Social Security check may be higher on paper in 2026, but if you feel poorer than last year, you are not imagining it. Millions of retirees opened their January deposit and realized that the so-called raise barely changed their real income, or did not change it at all. Stay with me until the end of this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications right now, because what is happening to your Social Security check in 2026 is not obvious. It is rarely explained clearly, and ignoring it can quietly damage your finances month after month. This is not about panic, and it is not about political talking points. It is about the difference between what Social Security says you receive and what actually reaches your bank account. Many retirees focus on the gross number announced every year and assume that an increase automatically means improvement. In reality, the only number that matters is the net amount you can actually spend, and in 2026, that number is under pressure from several directions at the same time. The issue is not that the COLA was skipped or miscalculated. The adjustment was applied exactly as announced. The issue is that Social Security does not operate in isolation. Your benefit is connected to Medicare premiums, tax withholding rules, income thresholds, and automatic deductions that most people only notice after the money is already gone. If Social Security represents a meaningful share of your income, even modest changes can have real consequences. $10 or $20 less per month may sound manageable, but over a full year, it becomes a few $100s you expected to have and no longer do. For retirees on fixed budgets, that gap often shows up in healthcare choices, savings withdrawals, or reduced flexibility when unexpected expenses appear. What makes this especially risky is that it feels confusing rather than dramatic. There is no clear warning that your purchasing power is shrinking. There is no alert explaining why your deposit looks almost the same. You simply notice that the math does not work the way you expected, and many people assume they missed something or did something wrong. In this video, we are not going to explain benefits in a textbook way. We are going to explain why the system produces this result, why net income matters more than announced increases, and why this pattern is becoming more common for retirees moving forward. Understanding this now is not about predictions or ideology. It is about protecting your financial stability inside a system that shifts costs quietly, without obvious signals. Today, we're going to break down the 2026 Social Security Cost of Living Adjustment, or COLA, and figure out what it actually means for the money that hits your bank account. So, the official number for 2026 is out, and it's a 2.8% cost of living adjustment. Now, this increase is designed to help your benefits keep up with inflation. Okay, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at that 2.8% growth increase. Then, we'll dive into how deductions work. After that, we'll walk through a real calculation. And finally, we'll talk about what this all means for your budget. So, let's start with the top line number. What does this 2.8% increase look like on paper? You know, before anything gets taken out, right? So, what exactly is a COLA? Well, think of it as an automatic yearly bump to your Social Security benefits. Its whole purpose is to make sure inflation doesn't eat away at your purchasing power. It's all calculated using a specific inflation measure called the CPIW. So, for the average retired worker, what does this 2.8% actually mean in dollars? It's about a $56 gross increase each month. That takes the average benefit from roughly $215 up to about $271. Okay, but here's where things get a bit more complicated. That gross increase we just talked about, that's just the starting point. It's not the amount we'll actually see. There are really three main things that can shrink that KOA increase before it gets to you. The big one for most people is the Medicare Part B premium. Then if you're a higher earner, you might have some income-related surcharges. And finally, there are federal taxes if you've chosen to have those withheld. Now, take a look at this. The standard Medicare Part B premium saw a pretty big jump. It's going from $185 a month up to almost $23. That's an increase of $1,790. And for most people, that comes directly out of their Social Security check. Now, if you have a higher income, there's another potential deduction called IRMAA. It stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. It's basically an extra charge on your Medicare premium, and it's based on the income you reported on your tax return from 2 years ago. And the last piece is federal tax withholding, which is voluntary. Depending on what's called your combined income, your Social Security benefits might actually be taxable. If you set up withholding, that amount will also be taken from your gross payment each month. Okay, so let's put all these pieces together. We're going to run the numbers for a typical beneficiary, someone who isn't paying IRMAA surcharges or having taxes withheld. The math here is pretty straightforward. You start with that average gross COLA increase of $56, but then you immediately subtract the $17.90 increase in the Medicare Part B premium, and just like that, the raise drops to a net increase of just over $38. And this is exactly why you might hear people talking about a net zero or near zero increase for some people, especially those paying IRMAA or withholding a lot for taxes. These rising deductions can basically eat up the entire COLA, leaving them with almost no change in their monthly deposit. All right, so what does this all mean for you and your personal finances? Let's talk about the real practical impact this has on your monthly budget planning for 2026. So here's the bottom line. When you're planning for the year, you have to base your budget on your net benefit, not that headline 2.8% number. And don't forget, there are other costs that affect your wallet too, like your Part D premiums and the new higher Part B deductible, which is now $283. Those are separate hits to your budget. This really shows the huge difference between the gross adjustment on paper and the net cash you actually have to live on. So, it all comes down to this one question you need to ask yourself. After all is said and done, how does your actual 2026 net benefit stack up against your financial plans for the year ahead? What we are witnessing in 2026 is not a temporary distortion, a bureaucratic mistake, or a short-term imbalance that will correct itself next year. It is the visible result of how the retirement income system in the United States actually functions once benefits, healthcare, and taxation collide in real life. Social Security did what it was legally required to do. It applied the COLA. The numbers on paper went up. But retirement security is not built on paper increases. It is built on what remains after every automatic mechanism has taken its share. This distinction matters because for decades, retirees were taught to think of Social Security as a stable foundation, something predictable, something that, once it started, could be treated as a known constant. That assumption is no longer safe, not because Social Security is disappearing tomorrow, but because the net outcome of receiving benefits is becoming more volatile, more conditional, and more sensitive to forces retirees do not directly control. The uncomfortable reality is that the system is no longer designed to preserve purchasing power in a holistic sense. COLA protects benefits against one specific measure of inflation, but retirees do not live inside an index. They live inside budgets, and those budgets are dominated by healthcare costs, insurance premiums, taxes, and income thresholds that move independently of COLA. When those forces move faster, the protection collapses quietly. This is why so many retirees felt confused in January 2026. They were not careless. They were not financially illiterate. They were relying on an outdated mental model, the idea that an announced increase automatically improves financial security. That model worked better in the past, when healthcare costs were lower relative to income and Medicare premiums consumed a smaller share of benefits. Today, that relationship has reversed. The most dangerous part of this shift is not the immediate financial impact. It is the behavioral response it triggers. When retirees notice that their money is not stretching as far as expected, many assume the problem is temporary. They wait. They postpone adjustments. They tell themselves it will look better next year. In doing so, they often delay necessary changes until their margin of error is gone. Some retirees respond by drawing more aggressively from savings, assuming the gap will close. Others reduce discretionary spending, sometimes including healthcare or preventive care, without realizing they are responding to a structural issue, not a passing one. These choices may feel rational in the moment, but over time, they can compound risk rather than reduce it. The system does not issue warnings when this transition happens. There is no letter explaining that your retirement income has entered a new phase where increases are routinely offset. There is no official acknowledgement that the net experience of retirement is changing. The burden of recognition falls entirely on the individual retiree. This creates an uneven landscape. Retirees who actively track net income, deductions, and long-term trends are better positioned to adapt. Those who rely on statements, headlines, or assumptions are more likely to be surprised. This is not a question of intelligence or responsibility. It is a question of awareness in a system that has become less transparent by design. Looking forward, there is little evidence that this pattern will reverse on its own. Healthcare costs continue to rise faster than general inflation. Medicare financing pressures encourage higher premiums and cost sharing. Income-based adjustments expand quietly as thresholds fail to keep pace with real-world expenses. None of these forces are aligned to protect net Social Security income. This does not mean retirees should panic. Panic leads to poor decisions. But it does mean retirees must abandon the idea that Social Security alone guarantees stability. Retirement today requires ongoing attention. It requires understanding how different systems intersect and how small changes compound over time. Ignoring these dynamics does not preserve peace of mind. It erodes it slowly. The retirees who suffer most are not those facing dramatic cuts, but those experiencing gradual erosion without recognizing it. By the time the impact becomes obvious, options are narrower and adjustments more painful. If there is one lesson to carry forward from 2026, it is this: gross benefits are no longer a reliable indicator of financial health. Net income, after every deduction and interaction, is the only number that matters, and that number deserves the same scrutiny retirees once reserved for investment returns or withdrawal rates. Retirement is not a finish line. It is a long phase of financial management under changing conditions. The sooner retirees accept that reality, the better equipped they will be to protect their independence, their choices, and their quality of life.
Hello there. Are you currently navigating the complexities of retirement, or perhaps rapidly approaching that significant life milestone? The Retiree's Handbook is your dedicated YouTube guide for all retirement and pension news right here in the United States. It's crucial to stay informed about your financial future. We cover understanding pension benefits and maximizing your Social Security, ensuring you have the knowledge you need. Our channel provides actionable financial tips for retirees, helping you confidently make the most of your golden years. Don't miss vital information that impacts your peace of mind. Join our growing community today. Thank you for watching. Your financial security and retirement is incredibly important, and we're here to help you every step. Please subscribe to the Retiree's Handbook channel to never miss our latest updates and valuable insights. Join our community for continuous support, future pension news, and helpful resources to empower your retirement journey.